You know, some of the most intense relationships in history never really happened, at least not in person. They existed entirely in a world of ink, paper, and postage. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most famous examples of this, the passionate, incredibly complex, and ultimately heartbreaking correspondence between the writer Franz Kafka and his translator, Milena Jesenská.
And, I mean, this isn't just a collection of letters. This book, these pages, this is their affair. For a little over 2 years, their whole world was built up and then torn down in that agonizing space between sending a letter and waiting for a reply. It's a love story where the medium, the letters themselves, really is the message. And, as we're about to see, it was also their prison.
I mean, listen to this. This one quote just perfectly captures the world they were building together. Right from the very beginning, Kafka wasn't just writing to Milena. He was literally living inside her words. This one line tells you everything about the intimacy, the fantasy, and the almost unbearable beauty of a connection that felt more real to them than reality itself.
So how did this all even begin? Well, like a lot of great literary stories, it all started with the work. A simple, professional request that somehow ignited one of the most documented emotional tempests of the 20th century. First, you have to understand Milena. She wasn't just a fan. She was this brilliant intellectual, a journalist, a translator, a truly modern woman, making her way in the complex world of post-war Vienna. So when she reached out to Kafka to translate his stories, she wasn't just taking on a project. She very quickly started translating the man himself, seeing right past the surface to the genius and all the anxiety that was churning underneath.
And the thing is, Kafka saw her too. He was just floored by her precision, by how deeply she seemed to understand his work. This is where their bond was first forged, on purely intellectual grounds. He saw in her translation this soul-deep comprehension that he must have craved, a faithfulness that went way beyond just language. So, that initial spark, it didn't just smolder, it absolutely erupted. Their letters became a torrent, a daily, sometimes even twice-daily exchange that basically charted the incredibly volatile weather of their internal worlds. This was not a gentle, polite correspondence. It was a storm.
And just look at this contrast. It's wild. On one hand, her letters are like a soothing relief, a rain on my burning head. He could sit at their feet, totally happy. But then the tone just flips. When he's faced with her full intelligence and passion, she transforms in his mind into this terrifying Medusa, surrounded by snakes of terror. It wasn't just about her words, it was his reaction to her power. The very thing that drew him to her, her strength, also absolutely terrified him. And that duality, that's the whole story right there.
So here's the crucial thing to get. The relationship existed in the letters. This wasn't just a way for two people to talk while they were apart. The letters were the arena. They were the stage where all the love, all the jealousy, the fear, the fantasy, it all played out there, completely disconnected from the messy reality of their separate lives in Prague and Vienna.
Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of it all, to the labyrinth of Kafka's own mind. Because if you really want to understand why this relationship could only exist on paper, you have to understand the deep, all-consuming fears that pretty much governed his entire life.
This quote is it's devastating. It's not just him being sad, it's how he sees his entire life. He sees life itself as this dangerous path that he is absolutely destined to fail on. He's not just stumbling. In his mind, he's already on the ground, defeated before the race has even really started. And that's the mindset that colors every single word he writes to her.
And his letters, they're like a map of these anxieties. We can see it all with stunning precision. There's the constant, physical reality of his tuberculosis. There's his profound sense of inadequacy. He saw himself as a pawn of a pawn, less than a minor piece in the game of life. We see his deep-seated anxiety about being Jewish in a hostile world. And crucially, his terror of the physical world, of marriage, of intimacy, of any real commitment that he couldn't control like words on a page. And listen to how casually he talks about his mortal illness. The disease in his lung is as fresh as ever. What a strange, chilling way to put it. And he considers this a pretty good result. That just shows you how deeply ingrained his sickness was. It wasn't a crisis for him, it was just the permanent, humming background noise of his life.
Wow, this one hits hard. He's drawing a line here that even their incredible intimacy can't cross. He's reminding her that his very identity, in his own eyes, makes any real future impossible. He sees danger as an essential part of who he is, something that would contaminate even the most beautiful, perfect future with her. It's a wall he builds between them, and it's absolute.
So with all these fears as the foundation, where could their relationship possibly go? It was inevitable, really. The fantasy world they had built on paper just began to buckle under the weight of Kafka's anxieties and the simple impossibility of them ever having a real-world life together. The collapse was coming.
And here it is, the moment of crisis. And notice how he talks about himself in the third person. Wait and see how you, meaning me, survive. It's like he's so fragmented, so alienated from his own feelings, that he's become a spectator at his own breakdown. The world of their letters, which was once his sanctuary, is now the epicenter of an earthquake.
And of course, Kafka, the absolute master of the surreal nightmare, ends up documenting a real one in his letters. He dreams about their long-awaited meeting in Vienna, the one event that should have been the beautiful culmination of their love. But instead, in his subconscious, it becomes the ultimate stage for all of his fears of inadequacy and rejection to play out. So the dream begins with his deepest insecurity just laid bare. The real him could never, ever live up to the man he created in the letters. And her dream reply is just so comically cruel, right? I thought you'd be a little more stylish. It cuts right to his fears of being physically unimpressive. And with that one word, the fantasy just shatters. And the dream ends in total failure. She can only spare him 40 minutes on a Sunday. And his response, "I won't wait," isn't a statement of pride. It's pure despair. He shouts it after her as she's walking away. It's the symbolic death of their future, a final, helpless admission that their two worlds, the paper one and the real one, could never truly meet. But here's the thing. The end of the affair wasn't the end of Milena's importance for Kafka. Not at all. The letters they created left his indelible mark, and she became something more than a person in his mind. She became an idea, a principle.
This right here, this might be the most powerful summary of their entire relationship. Even after it was all over, she wasn't just M anymore. In his mind, she was elevated into this abstract concept, a guiding light, a standard against which everything else in his life was measured. She became a permanent fixture in the architecture of his mind. And that really is the central tragedy and the beauty of it all. The very thing that made their connection so incredibly powerful, the fact that it existed purely in the realm of the mind, was also the thing that doomed it. It was just too perfect, too intense, to ever survive contact with the messy, compromised physical world.
What a haunting final image to leave us with. This dream captures the essence of their bond perfectly, a total fusion of identities, so complete and so all-consuming that it ultimately becomes destructive. It's not a love that just unites two people, it's a love that threatens to completely incinerate them.
So, in the end, we're left with this question. Was their love any less real just because it lived on paper? Or was it, maybe, a different kind of real? Something more potent, more focused, and more absolute than any love that's constrained by everyday life could ever hope to be? The letters don't give us an easy answer, and that's probably what makes them, and this story, absolutely timeless.